Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar titled Mobile Will Transform Your Finance Operations. Are you ready? My name is Rihanna Collier. I'm Vice President of the Software Division at SIIA, and I'm delighted to have a fantastic lineup of speakers with me today. We have Alex Bacher and Mike West from Saugatuck Technology and Darren Linscott from Billcom. Before I introduce and turn it over to our speakers, just a couple housekeeping reminders. All of the phone lines are on mute. However, we do want to make sure that we answer all your questions throughout the course of this webinar. So if you have questions, please use the chat box on the left of your screen to ask your questions. We'll address all questions at the end of the presentations. If for some reason we don't get to your question, we will address it offline. Now the presentations and the webinar is being recorded. We will provide the presentations and the full recording to all participants following today's event. I would just want to quickly highlight SIA's flagship conference coming up May 7th through 9th in San Francisco. It's all about the cloud. In fact, we have Saugatuck's founder and CEO who will be doing an opening presentation, which is always a highlight of the program. This is one of the leading ISV events bringing together everyone to discuss really all things cloud. We do have an early bird registration special, but it does end April 8th, so I encourage you to check out the website and get registered so you can save, I think it's about $400 off the registration fee. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. My email's there on the screen. I'm happy to answer any questions. Okay, so let's get started with why we're here today. I want to introduce our first two speakers. Alex Bacher is the Senior Research Analyst for Saugatuck Technology, and he is the lead analyst around social business, enterprise social networking, and collaboration software. With him is Mike West, who is Vice President and Distinguished Analyst for Saugatuck, and his areas of research and consulting are around cloud computing, enterprise-ready SaaS, ISVs in transition to SaaS, cloud development platforms, SaaS integrations, social computing platforms, and GRC. So I'd like to start by turning it over to Alex and Mike, and then we'll go from there. Alex?
Rihanna, thank you. There we go. Hi, Rihanna. Thank you very much. And looking forward to this presentation. So without further ado, let's get into the presentation here. Title of the presentation is The Boundary-Free Enterprise Transforming Financial Management. So these are the key themes that we will be covering today to help you better understand how financial management is transitioning through the use of cloud and mobility. This evolution from traditional practices and limitations is part of a broader shift in how business view their relationship with their technologies. As in previous major shifts in IT, the promise lies in increased productivity and lower costs. But unlike in previous era where these changes were initiated by single disruptors, for example, the advent of personal computers, this major change is the result of several simultaneous disruptive technologies: cloud, mobile, social, analytics, and integration. Today's presentation will help you understand how these forces are acting on financial management software and examine both the technology and business problems that they are now trying to solve. Today's world requires mobile access to financial systems to enable and support decision-making. Entrepreneurs and business analysts alike rely on access to real-time financial information to make critical purchase and payment decisions, as well as monitor business performance while on the road. The cloud makes business more agile. Delivering applications through the cloud enables businesses to move beyond owning and operating computers and software specifically for their financial systems, enables access from a variety of devices, locations, and users. And the boundary-free enterprise changes the game. The confluence of cloud, mobile, social, analytics, and integration makes up the emerging architecture of the boundary-free enterprise. This combination of emerging trends is changing the way that IT is delivered and consumed and allows businesses to get what they want from their technology. Right now, the plight of the small businessman is such that there's an eternal challenge between the capabilities that they need to make their company as efficient as possible and still balance the cost the true end-to-end management of complicated IT systems require. In previous generations of IT, the costs from the IT systems frequently exceeded the overall benefits. As a result, many small and mid-sized businesses still operate in an environment that is lacking IT support or capabilities. Couple that with the constraints of a poor economy, and you have an ever-increasing pressure to get by on as little as possible. These are just a few challenges facing small businesses today and why mobile financials can help ameliorate them. I am an SMB owner and I travel frequently. Because the company is small, final decision-making still lies with the owner or CEO. And regardless of where that CEO is, they need to be able to make decisions to keep the business going. I need to manage my business in real time. If your business has tight deliverable deadlines, being able to invoice and collect money on tight timelines is critical to company success. I can't wait to get back to the office. Key stakeholders in the financials also must spend significant amounts of face time with clients or out on site with partners. Being able to utilize mobile financials helps streamline workflow when it is impossible to be in the office. I manage a distributed team and they need access to financials. Remote workers are an increasing reality. If you need to share your financials with your accountants, tax professionals, or even a remote CFO, mobile and cloud access make these tasks much simpler. We are a small company and our office manager has way too much to do. Many companies don't have enough staff for the work that an office manager must do. Office managers are often multitasking on a variety of things, including HR, benefits, coordination, communications. And with those tasks, along with managing financials, things can be put off and often are. We have a BYOD environment but can't connect to our existing systems. Well, that kind of speaks for itself. And with a variety of devices and an ever-increasing number of functional operating systems from smartphones and tablets and netbooks, and now Chromebooks, oftentimes systems just don't work well with each other when you're talking about desktop installed software. So let's talk about those existing systems and the problems we have with them. This is just a few disadvantages that the business often runs into with on-premises software. The capital investment requires high upfront costs, often including hardware, software, setup, and management fees. Especially for small businesses, the economies of scale that larger companies can get by supporting their IT needs in-house often work in the opposite way, making the total cost of ownership per unit much higher for a small business. While large IT organizations can gain efficiencies at scale, the small businesses typically won't. On-premises hardware and software has a high fixed cost in labor as well, and it can be unattractive to maintain an IT staff for relatively little hardware. On-premises IT also has significant challenges for the small business, specifically as they are typically installed in the company headquarters. Ensuring appropriate disaster recovery and backup safety can be difficult and costly. Additionally, when the business moves offices, even over short distances, the entire IT system must be dismantled and moved as well. Along the same lines of being in a set physical location, the nature of accessing physical locations through VPNs and other remote applications still rely on the systems in the office to be running and available. Though access may be possible, the computer systems typically installed are not designed for high availability, and frequently the best remote access to financials available is little more than a remote desktop session on a standard desktop running QuickBooks. Not as easy for business partners to plug in. Clouds come with APIs that can make sharing data between partners as well as other significant services easier. On-premises software, though, often requires more effort to install and manage integration hosts and can complicate the process of keeping partners up to date. There must be a better way. Right now, there is an imperative for mobile financial management for small businesses. Let's say your finances rely on several different systems, accounting and payroll, for example, and they integrate with CRM, online banking, and then some other APIs for backing up data or conducting business forecasting or analytics. Right now, these processes are intensive to keep organized and managed, and they are complicated and potentially costly to run and integrate. By moving these systems to the cloud and enabling access from mobile devices, businesses can transform their organization to enable greater flexibility and agility, allowing them to bend rather than break in changing market dynamics. With the cloud and mobility, businesses will be able to take advantage of staying connected when out of the office, business people who need to make remote access to their finances, whether to check on orders, accounts, and statements, or to approve the expense reports and payroll, will be able to do so without being tied to the office. Cloud applications offer a way to have universal access on a variety of devices from anywhere in the world without having to worry about time zones, office hours, or calling the office manager to check numbers. Businesses will be able to take advantage of mobile workers. As small businesses grow, they often take on enough staff that it becomes necessary to hire an accountant or to at least contract out the accountant work to professionals. While in the past this would have required the accountant coming into the office, cloud and mobile access to the financial applications enable businesses to simply provide their accountants with credentials that will grant them access from anywhere in the world. The same goes for other employees who might need access to financial systems to help in decision making. Finally, companies need to embrace loosely coupled architectures. Mike, can you jump in real quick and explain what a loosely coupled architecture means in the context of IT?
Let me take a shot at it, Alex. Loose coupling is an approach, it's a design approach. So you're designing interfaces across modules that they can communicate and to enable interoperation. So a well-designed loose coupling is a way in which you have facilitated interoperation between systems. Think of encapsulation in object systems. So when you call a function and supply it with the necessary parameters or the required data, it operates on that, and then it returns another message to the originating system. So simply put, it's a message-based invocation of functionality that's external to the host system. Now, the cloud makes immediate access to many external systems feasible for the first time. And that's the huge advantage over the on-premises architecture. And that's why embedding system functionality or coding it yourself is not always necessary. You can access it through loose coupling. So the keys to this are going to be things like message transport and well-defined interfaces. And there are some cloud integration vendors like Dell Boomi, IBM Cast Iron, Informatica, Pervasive, etc., and they all provide kits with frequently used interface widgets and also tools for building those interfaces yourself. So in a nutshell, loose coupling is really one of the hallmarks of the boundary-free enterprise, enabling you to get synergy dynamically between cloud-based functions.
Thank you, Mike. And the message here is don't let financials hold you back from becoming boundary-free. So if you don't want to be held back, maybe we should take a look at some data of what your peers are doing. Here is some data from Saugatuck's 2012 Cloud Business Application Survey. The question here was, what percentage of new application deployment will be cloud-based for the following categories? And this is specifically looking at finance and accounting here. As you can see, by 2014, plans to adopt new financial applications through the cloud have already surpassed 50%. indicating significant interest in transitioning away from the on-premises model. And by 2015, a full 2/3 of respondents expected their new finance application to be deployed in the cloud. Mike, perhaps you could explain why, if the cloud has been around for 10 years, it is just now that people are buying financial software there.
Well, that's a very good question, Alex. Certainly when the cloud first started out, people weren't sure about it, didn't know for sure whether it would be robust enough. Is this thing going to really stick around? And now 10 years later, we have a lot of evidence, a lot of validation of the genuineness of this return on investment. Nevertheless, there are some solutions that are easier to trust in the cloud, and the first place that the cloud entered was, at the periphery, that CRM. Let's say we want to help our sales force be more effective in managing customers and prospects. And frankly, Salesforce guys had never, really been able to get into systems very much. So the cloud really made that mobile solution possible. And then gradually now solutions have moved a little closer to the core of the boundary-free enterprise. Of course, financials are the crown jewels, and many firms have been holding out. If we go to the next slide, Alex, I think I can make this a little plainer.
All right, there we go.
Okay. So as you see this slide, you get the idea. There's a range of opportunities here. You can be cloud or SaaS-based. You can be hybrid cloud. That's the green stuff. The purple stuff is the cloud. The red is hosted, and then the blue is on-premises. And notice the increasing share of on-premises solution implementation, deployment preference as you move from left to right. As you move from the left where we have CRM and things like collaboration and customer service, and recently now HR has started to really catch on, business intelligence, software dev and test is sliding to the left, especially as mobile becomes more important. But things like ERP, manufacturing, supply chain, governance, risk, and compliance, budgeting, reporting, planning especially, and finance and accounting on the extreme right have the lowest share of cloud, of hybrid, and of hosted. When you add that together, it's about 40% of the possible 100%, and the other 60% is on premises. So what we really see is the money apps. The closer we get to the money within the enterprise, the less likely we are to see today the cloud-based solutions. On the other hand, this, as Alex has pointed out from the previous slide, is an accelerating deployment, and increasingly we see firms moving to the cloud. Now, there are some questions that have to be answered if you are going to move to the cloud, and there are some challenges, and there are some questions that you need to be able to go to your management with the solutions, the answers to, and we'd like to look at those in the next slide.
Thank you, Mike. And though the adoption numbers are very promising, it doesn't absolve us of the need for due diligence here. It's still very important with the deployment of any business software that you evaluate it before it's fit to your business. Software is seldom one size fits all, and many vendors have specific areas of focus that can either target them towards a specific vertical, towards a specific end user, or a specific skill set. Here are just a few areas where it's important to look at what your functional requirements are and some of the challenges that might be associated with them. First is looking at the software's robustness, functionality, and extensibility. How stable is it? How much can it do? How much can I add and integrate? On the one hand, you obviously want a very stable and robust way to store and manage your financial information. But on the other hand, depending on whether your business requires advanced features or heavy extensibility, you should determine how much value you place on these categories. Integration to other software is also important. Having financials be an input to various aspects of the business through software integration opens the possibility to streamline operations and allow everyone to act on the same data in a synchronized way. Security and privacy. This concern is critical to consider, but often miscalculated. remember to address the application security not only relative to itself, but also relative to what the alternatives are that you can realistically consider. We've found at Saugatuck that for many SMBs and even even larger enterprises, the security they can get through cloud applications is more up-to-date and robust than the systems they would end up using if they hosted the applications themselves on premises. Cloud providers make a business of being secure, and oftentimes overtaxed IT departments can let things be a little more lax than they're willing to admit. How can I access the solutions is also very important. Just because the service is based in the cloud does not necessarily mean it guarantees good mobile access. If mobile device applications are important, make sure that they support the device ecosystem that you're using, whether it be iOS, Android, or any other smartphone OS on the market. Additional things to consider are how dependent on connectivity you are for these solutions to work. For example, if the mobile application is critical, but you often travel outside connectivity, can the mobile application store changes you make and synchronize them to the cloud when you come back into Signal? Compatibility with partners is also something that we've pointed out many times in the shift to the boundary-free enterprise, and it's no less important here in cloud financials. Often through the use of APIs and available software development kits, it is very simple to communicate with other applications, both on-premises and in the cloud. It is still important, though, to investigate what systems your partners will be using and whether or not their systems will support your modernization. Though this won't be relevant for everyone, if your business depends on purchasing and ordering with partners, ensure that any data you generate is able to be delivered in a form that they can use. Finally, businesses switching to cloud need to examine whether they're going to change their existing processes. Oftentimes, when software changes, it can change and simplify previous workflows. It is important to factor in whether or not your employees will need retraining and whether or not existing processes can be eliminated entirely. The transition to cloud gives a company more than a different method of consuming software. And when companies embrace these new capabilities, they can become what Saugatuck has called boundary-free. And Mike, maybe you can walk us through our final slide here on the benefits of the boundary-free enterprise and what that means.
Well, just before I do, Alex, I think you did a fabulous job of presenting some of the challenges that everybody has to pay attention to looking at in evaluating financial software, and that's to reduce the risk of your acquisition. But certainly on the reward side, let's not neglect the key questions for the value of the software that you're going to be looking at. So on the reward side, what kind of financial returns can we expect? How will this position us for competitive readiness? What is the synergy potential of this solution? What kind of agility and adaptability does it put us in position for? And how does this help build a trusted partnership over the long term? Let's consider the reward side in addition to the risk side. But now, as Alex suggests, let's turn quickly to the boundary-free enterprise. And we talked at the outset about the imperative of this transition that's going on to the boundary-free enterprise. Essentially what it's about is greater flexibility and agility. You don't have to be within the company walls. You can be anywhere and access systems and share information. Embracing loosely coupled architectures, as we discussed, and making connections with your key vendors regardless where they are and regardless of where you are. And that goes double for your mobile workers, giving them the power to be productive even at Starbucks. Alex?
Yeah, well, that model just basically sums up the transition to the cloud. You can see mobile, social, collaboration, data analytics, all centered around the eco stack, which covers all the way from the basic hardware all the way to the services that run on top of everything to help operate your business. And really the switch to mobile financials will help your company embrace this new way of doing business and be able to take advantage of modern capabilities and not be chained to legacy software practices and legacy operations limitations. So without further ado, I will say thank you very much and turn this back over to Rihanna.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Mike. That was great. And if for those of you who are not familiar with Saugatuck, they really do produce some really great research, really valuable, and can help your business. So I encourage you to check it out. Now I'd like to turn it over to Darren Linscott, who's the VP of Product at Billcom. And Darren has over 16 years in accounting and software implementation and product management experience. So he's got a lot of background, and he's going to provide some further information on this topic. Darren? Great.
Thanks, Rihanna. That was a great presentation, Alex and Mike. I think there's a lot of valuable information there, and where I can bring it up, I will in my slides. Some of the relevancy, the return on investment, how there's a great opportunity in business apps and accounting apps as far as the cloud is concerned, the benefits of mobile and so forth. So very short agenda, and I won't take too much of your time, but I wanted to cover a number of things here. One is kind of the manual process versus mobile. This might sound fairly obvious, but it's interesting that businesses have not adopted mobile or cloud solutions for the most part. We've offered a mobile survey to a number of financial professionals, and we will cover those results with you. Hopefully those will be interesting, and also we'll add some additional data for you to consider in addition to Alex and Mike's presentation. And then finally, I'll just wrap up with a bit about Bill.com and our solution. So manual versus mobile. So the interesting thing is, I think as consumers, we all expect connectivity or interconnectedness between whatever we're doing, whether it's emails or text, or if you're searching, your social network of choice. You now expect an online banking app in addition to being able to log in from anywhere and pay your bills. You likely share your photos, with your favorite tool of choice, Instagram or whatnot. YouTube is predominant way of sharing videos and so forth. The list goes on. Basically, as individuals, that is basically our expectation. You have your phone. You're connected all the time to anything, and if you contrast that with your typical business environment, it's a very manual process. Most things are done via paper. So if you're talking about the payables process, you're dealing with a paper bill. You're dealing with a manual process to route that bill for approval. Typically what happens is it's a stack of pages on a couple of clerks' desks, and they have to walk those around for approval, or perhaps they'll send an email and say, hey, would you approve this so-and-so? And that person will ask for backup information that will likely be stored in a file cabinet. Let alone using mobile, we're not even talking about any form of real automation today. And most accounting systems don't really address this well either. It's simply, mirroring the kind of existing manual process somewhat in the software, but it's not really saving you a lot of time and effort. So on the receivable side, similarly, you're printing an invoice, you're sending that out to your customer is mailing you a check, you're somehow getting that check deposited and then reconciled, and then you're closing out that invoice, and then you're storing that check copy along with the invoice in your filing cabinet. It's a really onerous process, and if you look at it in contrast to what you do as a consumer, it's a stark contrast. It's like, there's not taking advantage of all of the technology that's out there today. This will hopefully seem very obvious to you. What are the drawbacks of a manual process? If you just think about, what those typical workflows are like. You send out an invoice, or let's say an invoice comes in. Did you actually get the invoice? Is it set up for approvals? Has it been approved? Did you actually make the payment to the vendor? If you made it, have you overpaid it? Is the amount too much? Have you had the right people that are involved in the payment process review it? Did you get all their signatures? So you can think of all of the challenges around a manual process on the payment side or on the payable side. The payable side also exposes you to more fraud, in particular check fraud, because typically businesses are cutting their own checks and sending those out. And so there's really no additional protection. There's very few businesses on the smaller end use positive pay, and so they're definitely opening themselves up in that case. Naturally, there's increased errors because you're talking about humans being involved in the process. There's no automated ability to project cash flow. So if you're dealing with paper, perhaps your accounting system will give you some aspects of this, but in most cases people are dealing with an Excel spreadsheet with no kind of interconnectivity. And we hear this theme, of all of these coupled services. So you have payables and your receivables. Can't they come together and show you what your cash position is at that point in time? And furthermore, it'd be great if you can get your banking information, and so your payments and all of these things are all nicely tied together. But that's really not what's happening today. And of course, if things are not automated, things are not in a system, and even better yet, a cloud-based system, you're not going to be accessing these workflows, these transactions via a mobile device. So let me take you to the world of Bill.com. And so we are able to automate that entire workflow. So from the moment you get the bill, in this case I'm talking primarily about the payables process, but from the moment you get the bill, we offer you a number of means to get that into the system, to digitize that, and then route that around for approval in an automated way. So basically you set up who needs to approve it. You can set limits. You can set the specific individuals that need to approve. And basically the system will take care of it. It will route it around for approval. It will remind people to approve. And once that's all taken care of, then the payment process is as simple as clicking the button and paying. Of course, all with the appropriate entitlements, so only the people that should be paying. And you basically need all of these capabilities here in these circles. So you need document management, so you need to have the document digitized because people are still addicted to the document. They want to see what it is that they purchased and the details of that. If it's just a screen with a bunch of fields on it, it's not nearly as meaningful. There may be handwritten notes on that document, and that's important. Getting paid, so if we're talking about receivables, similarly, you want to have that an automated way. You want to have automated reminders. You want to have the invoice sent out to your customer where you don't have to touch it. And if it happens to need to go in a paper manner, have something else do that, which we do. So Bill.com will send out the invoice and send out the check all without you touching paper or a stamp. So that allows you, again, to move out of the manual into the cloud. And then furthermore, you can then pay your bills. You can approve bills. You can send out reminders all on a mobile device. And so you're not trapped to your desk. You're not even trapped to where you might have your laptop. Now, basically any device with a browser, you can get access to your entire payables and receivables processes. So this is basically a screenshot of the app showing you, this is Bill.com. It can run on basically any system with a browser. So your laptop, your tablet, your smartphone. So you can access it anywhere, anytime. And I think that's just, as consumers, what we've been accustomed to. You want to be able to get your Twitter feed at any point in time. You don't want to have to go log in. And it's there right on your smartphone. And that expectation now can be met with these cloud-based solutions like Bill.com. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the mobile usage survey that we conducted a few weeks back. This survey was sent out to CEOs and finance executives And we specifically asked them questions around the mobile technology. Both, are they adopting it? Are they interested in using it? Is it secure? A lot of the things that have come up in Alex's presentation, it's interesting. You can see kind of what their disposition is. I think that we've come a long way from 5 or 10 years ago, where people were very much afraid of having payment or accounting system data in the system. And as Alex, I think it was Alex's presentation, or maybe where Mike was commenting, where there's like 60% are still on premise. And that's just showing kind of the fear, or at least the historical fear, of bringing that data to the cloud. And you'll see from the presentation how that disposition is changing, which I think is a great thing. And it's really empowering businesses to be more collaborative, more mobile, more social, and more productive. So the first slide is most execs embrace mobile functionality. So we can see that definitely the trends have changed. If you would have asked this question 5 years ago, I bet this would be easily reversed, where 1/3 would embrace it, if not less than that. When you ask them what kind of functions would you need to do in the payables and receivables areas, they call out, you can see the statistics there, pay bills of 43% and approving bills, managing cash, and managing documents. These are all things that Bill.com is able to do. Mobile is a must-have. So you see 44% are saying that mobile transactions are a business requirement. And again, I'd love to see this number more like 88%, but this probably started at something in the very low double digits or single digits not so many years ago. And so I think this trend will only continue to where it is a complete no-brainer to have mobile access to nearly all of your business systems. And security will have been addressed through various means, and the usability of the applications becomes important. Again, as consumers, we expect the app to just be simple. And if I want to pay, I should be able to just push a button and pay. And business apps have also now trended that direction as well. They're easier to use, and so they're better and more suitable for a mobile device, where if you need to do a simple function like approve a bill, it should be right there at my fingertips. I should be able to view the document, and I should be able to move really quickly to my next step. And that is actually return on investment. You just eliminated a bunch of manual steps simply by having that option on the phone. Finance professionals want more mobile functionality, so we can see here that depending on the workflow, what types of actions they would like to be able to process from a mobile device. From sending reminders, this is in the context of both approvers and getting paid via invoices. When you send an invoice to your customer, it would be great to say, hey, you haven't paid this yet, and be able to do that from your mobile device. You can do that via email, but having that tied in a collaborative way directly with the invoice is way more powerful. So I mean more than just emails here. Approving bills, something that I've covered. You can see there's lots of interest in that. Confirming data, so this would be eliminating errors. It could be part of the approval process or some sort of confirmation process where you have a person at the end of a bill entry, let's say. They just want to verify that the GL accounts are correct as part of that process. And you can do that also on a mobile device. So these are, again, allowing people to do those things wherever they may be. Adding notes to documents, so this is collaboration, and checking on your cash flow. Certainly for a smaller business, this is really important, where you might be tighter on cash, and so you want to see, sort of like looking at your bank, but your bank doesn't factor in your receivables and payables, but being able to factor that whole kind of state of your cash position, including your forecasted amounts on your mobile device, is a really compelling value proposition. Early adopters, we have obviously a lot of early adopters as part of our customer base, and we can see that they spend a lot more time on mobile. You could say they've gone all in, and they do as much as they can via the cloud and mobile devices. And I think naturally we'll see businesses will trend that direction because they'll see that they are less competitive if they aren't offering cloud-based and mobile solutions. And then how would you rate the reliability? So 70% of financial executives feel that mobile is reliable. Again, I think Alex had pointed to this where in the past there was a lot of reluctance to adopt cloud-based solutions, so they started with the least risky ones like CRM. And that was because they were like, well, worst case is I lose an opportunity, and that I guess I can deal with, but I couldn't have my GL be wrong, or I couldn't miss that payment. And I think that has gone away to a great extent. We see companies like NetSuite and Intact and Workday. These are all financial solutions that are on the cloud that are getting great traction, and that's because the sentiment has changed. It's at some point I would say that if you're not on the cloud, you will be looked at as a laggard and someone that will be going out of business soon. And I think that is actually the reality. You have to embrace some of these later technologies that have been proven and take advantage of the competitive advantage they offer your business. As far as security, it's way up there. Again, this was another thing that was preventing adoption. So 83% feel that mobile is secure. And the last couple of slides here, and I definitely welcome your questions about the survey. You can type those in the chat box. The last couple of slides are just about Bill.com. Obviously, you've heard a number of the things that we can do in terms of automating your receivables. So you can see here on the diagram, you're interacting with your customers. And on the right side, you're interacting with your vendors on the payable side. You as a business owner or business team sits basically on top of Bill.com managing all of those business functions. And other things that are very important to this is really liberating the data in some cases. So if you're on a cloud-based solution, let's say Intact or NetSuite, their API is readily available. You can get that data out, and they have already kind of embraced customers that are open to mobile and cloud-based solutions. But we do other things like integrating with QuickBooks and Peachtree or Sage 50, pulling that data into Bill.com and allowing you to do business processes in the cloud via mobile, even though the accounting system is still on-premise. And so this is we're looking at ways of getting even the laggards where they're saying, I'm so comfortable with QuickBooks, to get them in and say, look, these workflows, accessibility and collaboration are going to really transform how you do your business and how we're going to be able to help you save money and make money. So a couple other things to point out on this slide. Banking integration is critical. We're talking about payments here. And so when you make a payment, you, for example, can create an invoice in your accounting system. You sync that into Bill.com. We send it out to your customer. Your customer can then pay it, and then that payment ends up in your bank account. So it's that kind of end-to-end workflow. As many of those steps are automated or made in a collaborative way as possible. So it's really a compelling solution. And then here's this slide again in terms of anywhere, anytime as kind of the focus for focus for this presentation, just the value of mobile and accessibility. And I think that's where things are going. And hopefully you enjoyed our presentation. I'll turn it back to you, Rihanna.
Great. Thanks, Sharon. I think that was fantastic. We do have a couple of questions. First, I'm going to direct this one just to Darren because this is for you. Have you integrated to Microsoft Dynamics ERP?
No, that's a great question. We have an integration. It is an import-export, so you can get your bills and invoices out of Great Plains and into Bill.com. We have our next level of integration, which we call Sync, which is actually bidirectional sync. We do that with NetSuite and Intact and QuickBooks and Peachtree and Xero. Microsoft Dynamics happens to be one of the highest on the list for our full two-way sync. But I would definitely encourage you to reach out and ask them some questions because it might already be a big benefit even with the import-export.
Great, thanks. Another question for Alex and Mike. Can you tell us a little bit more about the cloud eco-stack?
Yeah, I'll take that. And you know, I'm going to bounce back a few slides if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I'm doing this rapidly. I hope I'm doing it right. There we go. Now, the cloud eco-stack that Rihanna just mentioned is in the center of this diagram. And as Alex pointed out, there are 5 layers to the cloud eco-stack. The technology layer, which is enabling technology. This is, you know, hardware, software, networking, everything that makes it possible to have cloud services. The layer above this is the infrastructure solutions area, and this would include IaaS type things, private clouds on-premises environments as well, so virtual private clouds and so forth. A whole variety of hosting capabilities that enable solutions in public and private clouds. The next layer up is platforms and hubs. These are solutions that sort of sit between infrastructure and business solutions. And they're things like mobility management, let's say data analysis software, big data solutions, let's say social networking platforms, the whole variety of things, even application development and deployment solutions. Those PaaS platforms show up here in this layer. The one above this is where the cloud business solutions run. This is where you have SaaS. This is where you have hosted solutions that are, you know, maybe being charged out on a subscription basis. This is where you have, you know, emulations of SaaS, a variety of things that can run here in the cloud. And above that, the services layer, you know, stands in for a whole range of services and capabilities, including systems integration and the rest.
Great, thank you. And Darren, if you are mobile, how do you access the backup documentation in Bill.com?
So it depends on the workflow. So typically, we actually surface the document right in the context of what you're trying to do. For example, if you're approving a bill, you can see an actual screenshot of the bill image, in addition to any previous approver notes, the status of other approvers that were in the queue. And similar on the pay bills, you would also see that document, that bill image as well. On the invoice side, you know, yet again, when you are reminding or looking at an outstanding invoice and reminding a customer to make a payment, you can see that invoice right there. So, you know, if you wanted to call them, you could see it and reference the invoice by number and talk about the detailed line items on it.
And then what would you say most executives or your customers are currently using mobile for? Is it AP? Is it approvals? What do you think are some of the top things?
So I would say that probably the biggest flow that they use mobile for is approvals. And I should clarify. So if it's a small device, then we have a kind of an optimized site that offers limited functionality, but that's streamlined for that process. And so approvals and paying bills and reminding customers, those are the primary functions there. And so that's what we see a lot of our, you know, kind of smaller device usage for. If you have a tablet device, we actually render really nicely in a tablet, kind of full screen. And so then you're able to pretty much do anything that you can do from any browser on any computer. And so then we see, you know, businesses or users kind of doing, you know, anything that they would do on their desktop.
Great. Remind everyone that if you have any questions, please use the chat box. I do have another question. I think this one will be for Alex and Mike. I completely understand, or I can understand loose coupled architectures, but how do they work with hybrid cloud or on-premise software?
Well, I can take that one and then maybe get some input from Mike too. And loosely coupled architectures really are what enable hybrid cloud to work in the first place. So they work quite well. But what they rely on is, instead of traditional long deployment cycle system integrations to connect disparate on-premises systems to each other, they treat the on-premises systems much the same as they treat the cloud systems and focus on a more lightweight message sending approach that Mike described earlier when describing loosely coupled systems. So messages go from cloud to on-premises applications. Messages go from on-prem to on-prem and cloud to cloud, and all varieties of these combinations. They typically rely on the cloud integration providers rather than traditional system integrators, because they really do need that kind of cloud component to connect everything to everything. And typically the on-premises systems still don't work very well natively connecting to clouds. Mike, do you have anything you'd want to add to that?
I can't really add much to that, Alex. I think that says it perfectly. I would also say that, the most common kinds of integration between the cloud and on-premises solutions have traditionally been CRM and Salesforce, for instance, to something like an ERP solution like SAP. But I think in the next wave, we're going to see a combination of hybrid capabilities in the cloud and on-premises, whereby existing on-premises solutions that may have the crown jewel data are linked to analytical capabilities in the cloud that can complement the functionality. And I look forward to seeing how Bill.com will evolve to provide synergy with more and more on-premises solutions as the cloud solutions become even more popular and central to the way small and medium-sized businesses operate. In fact, why don't I toss this quickly over to Darren and ask him if he could comment a little bit on where he sees the future going for synergies between his cloud solutions and on-premises solutions that may never quite be gotten rid of.
Oh, that's a great question. So I'd say, well, the future is here today. So I think it's something that we're doing already, because we do see the reluctance to move off of some of on-premise systems. Yet businesses are willing to adopt certain capabilities that are cloud-based, even as they have these systems. For example, there was a mention of the Microsoft Dynamics solution. One of the trends that we're seeing with Dynamics and larger Sage customers is that rather than doing a full-blown implementation of a new cloud, ERP and accounting solution, they are bolting on or adding on cloud-based solutions to enable workflows or different capabilities that they deem important. Approvals and payments and that sort of thing fall into that category. Also see, CRM and document management also being adopted, yet while there's on-premise solutions in place.
Great.
Yeah, and if I could just pick up another aspect of that, Darren, thanks for sharing. The thing that I find interesting is how cloud solutions can be the medium for relaying requests to the on-premises systems, because you're traveling, you have access to the cloud system, you send a request for information, and this can be synchronized to the cloud from the on-premises system, and then provide the solution back down to the traveling executive. So there's all kinds of potential synergies here. I think we're just beginning to scratch the surface, and we'll soon see financial systems leading the way.
Yeah, definitely. There's, like you say, there's a huge opportunity here for advancement and automation, and simply making the job easier and more effective to do.
Great. Well, thank you. I want to, on behalf of SIIA and our audience, thank Alex and Mike and Darren. I think this was a great webinar, some really good data. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we will provide the audience with the full recording and the presentation shortly after we wrap here. And again, I want to be conscious of everybody's time, so we are approaching the top of the hour. But I want to thank Alex, Mike, and Darren, and wish everybody a good rest of the week.